for the future. And we've said this before, we'll say it again, as far as kind of what the draft is about to me is drafting the best players. And you hope over time you find some guys where you go, man, that's how this team got better, as they got that guy in the draft. First round, second round, an extra pick, wherever you get them. When you get them under your contract control and your development, I mean, they're in your system. It's kind of how you vision your program to be. And the more guys you can have as much time under your hands, that can be a good thing. Now, some could look at that vice versa for the Kings, going, wait, this team has been to the playoffs once in the last 19 years. Well, that's probably a bad place for people to go. I get that. That's a fair enough criticism, but you also have to now go, this is new. This is going to be new with Scott Perry. It's new with Doug Christie as the head coach. It's not new for Zach LaVine or for Sabonis or DeRozan, who have been on other teams, Monk. But for Keegan Murray, this is the only place he's been. But he's now experienced the NBA, where it's like he's had one coach, then another coach, a different general manager, different players around him. Keegan's kind of been here and only here, but he's now experienced kind of the reality of what the NBA is, and get comfortable with people, with transition, with change, because to see organizations have the same coach for more than 3 years is rare. To have the roster the same more than 3 years is rare. We're looking at 1 to 2 year increments now. Anthony, this thing is changing at a rapid rate across the league.
Yeah, it is weird. I get what you were saying before with you don't want to go to Sacramento. We've been bad for so long. You don't want to go to Charlotte. They've been bad for so long. You don't want to go to Washington. They've been bad for so long. And I think that we're actually different from that because of the newness. Like, we just did a full clearing of the house. Everything's going to change. We don't know how this is going to go. I think that they got drafted to become the new standard. They're creating the culture around these guys. They picked guys that they thought would fit the culture, the get out and run, play defense, play hard. What they've been preaching this whole offseason and since Doug took over, basically. So I think that it is good for them to be in the system immediately and learn how to play the way that the Kings are currently trying to build this team.
And so now let's get to that, to how they're trying to build this team. So watching the rookies in Vegas, watching the guys that are coming back under contract, as far as Isaac Jones, who's earned that contract, Devin Carter, who's under contract, the two-way guys they also have there. I don't want to undersell or forget about Isaiah Stevens and Dylan Cardwell, but they look like two-way players to me, and that's not a slight. It's just they'll spend some time in Vegas, or in Stockton, and some time with the Kings, the big club. Cardwell is that defensive enforcer. I don't see a lot of offensive refined game, but that's what he's got to work on. Like he has a list of chores to do, and he's got to work on it if he wants to have an NBA career. Isaiah Stevens, I think, can be a point guard. There's no doubt he's got those instincts. He's small, but that's another one you want kind of in your system, help run the Stockton Kings and so on and so forth. But now it's the rest of the roster. So if we were starting today and it was the opening night, I believe the Kings would start this lineup, and I don't think this is shocking. I believe it would be Schroeder with LaVine, with DeRozan, with Murray and Sabonis. Pretty much have seen that group with the exception of Schroeder being new. I think the Kings needed a point guard. I think we can, again, debate whether or not this was the right or best fit. But I think Schroeder will be good. He will function in that role pretty well as the Kings. It's just, I want to see this team. What we didn't see last year at the end of the year was what I would call a true point guard that played with LaVine and DeRozan. I don't know if LaVine and DeRozan will be here to start the season, but I'm going under that assumption right now. If they are, I think Schroeder's number one thing has to be to maximize those two, because both two on their own are good. Together, I don't think we get the best of DeRozan and the best of LaVine when they're on the floor together. And I don't know how we get that.
Yeah, I think that something similar happened in Chicago.
Yeah.
I think that they played really well when they had Lonzo, and then everything fell apart when Lonzo got hurt. And it was just, you have to find the point guard who is going to play to their strengths. And I think in Chicago, a lot of it had to do with getting out in transition. I don't think that they worked super well in a half-court set. And I think that having a point guard, just anyone who's that like guiding voice and can play make and doesn't freak out with ball pressure, I think that that is very important to maximizing two players who need to get to their spots and trust that they're going to get the ball once they get to their spots. And I can't wait to see what that looks like. And I'm also super excited for the bench more than
Yeah.
anything. I want to see the way that that develops and who ends up where in the depth chart.
Yeah, and that's going to be the intriguing layer too. And I think if we think about just the way they want to play, if we're reading summer league trends, they're pushing the ball. I would say if you look at the way the roster is constructed, even to the minute, I think pushing the ball will favor almost everybody on the team, with maybe the one exception. I don't want to say he can't run, but I think when they get into the half court, that's a favorable spot for DeRozan. And I don't think you cater to one player, even though they're probably their best scorer. But I don't think I think Levine would be better off running. I think Monk and Schroeder and Murray, Sabon, like all of them. And to me, the way I've always thought it could be is if DeRozan's a starter, if he came off the bench, I don't think they'll bring him off the bench. But I feel like, all right, teams get back in transition. They stop you. We're in a half court set. That's fine. And DeRozan, to me, is always the guy you can give the ball to late in the shot clock. He can create and get his own. But I think if you're initiating things and you're trying to push, you're looking for early offense. That's not always going to be DeRozan, and that's okay. I think if the way they're constructed today, I would push the pace as much as they possibly could.
I think so. And I think DeRozan would completely understand that.
Yeah.
I think that there are always going to be situations, no matter what the game plan is, you're always going to need that guy when things don't go right. You got 6 seconds left. Do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Get a shot up. And he will.
And the way the team is constructed in that form, I would say Sabonis isn't great at that. I don't think Keegan's a lot of like, hey, I'll get my own kind of guy. Schroeder probably can to a little extent, and Levine and DeRozan can. So, but that's if they're constructed as that way. But we're going under that premonition. Then I think if you look at the backups, I don't know if Ellis is the first point guard off the bench, if he's the point guard, if it's Carter, if it's Monk. I still think there's a spot for Monk. I think if he's coming off the bench, look, Monk still has one of the game's best 6 men. I mean, he is. He's an impact player. He's a good player. So sorting out like Schroeder, Levine, DeRozan, Ellis, Monk, Carter, that's crowded.
Yeah.
That's crowded. And is Neek in there, or is he?
If you consider him a guard, then he has to be in there.
Yeah, and then just based on that glut, does he now get forced to go into that DeRozan, Murray, Clifford, Jones, Saric? I don't know what that is. And then the center spot that can also be forward, Sabonis, Maxime, Eubanks. They're not all duplications. There are some duplications. It feels like when you have a roster that has a lot of guys that can play, I kind of like the teams that probably have more of the higher level guys. The perfect team has a bunch of higher level guys that's like 10 deep. Well, it's hard to construct that in the NBA. The Kings have a couple higher level guys, but then I think there's a lot of like 4 through 10. If you were the coach, Anthony, you said, no, we're playing Neek all the time, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I want the veteran. I've got to play. Let's see. In that situation, I'm just going to play more of Murray and Sabonis and figure out the rest and play small with these veteran guards that have been around the league a lot. Okay. Like, I think there's a lot of ways they can go, but I feel like the best teams define their roles, define the situations, and try to hit that sweet spot and maximize that the most they can.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to see how it evolves. I know they don't do 5 in, 5 out as much, like rotations aren't as exact, but I'd love at least a lineup at some point where I could see like Carter and Monk off ball, Neek with the ball, and then a backcourt of whoever, like Max and we need a 4 so bad.
I know. I don't.
Isaac Jones, sure. We'll do that. But I think that it'd be fun to see just like a taller initiator and then 2 guards who we think can't really play on ball as well. Like Malik had a lot of issues with ball pressure earlier, and Carter doesn't seem very comfortable on ball. We've talked about that before. So I think having Neek as the initiator, I think that'd be really fun to see with those guys off the bench, but we don't do 5 in, 5 out. There will be a starter in there. It'll probably be either Sabonis or Levine or DeMar. I think probably it'd be cool if Keegan played with that lineup. Then you don't have to find that 4. But I'd like that just from entertainment perspective.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see. But obviously, I don't know what's going on in practice. I don't know where people are and they're like playing up. But that would be exciting for me. I'd go and pay to go to a Kings game just to see that backup lineup.
Yeah, so I wrote out kind of where I think the positions are, and I'm going to give the 6 front court people I have here. Like, so I had Murray and Sabonis as your 4 and 5 to start. In no particular order off the bench, you have Isaac Jones, Saric, Eubanks, and Maxime Reynaud. That seems light to me. Not in number of people, but in potential guy. Like, to me, I'm most curious about Maxime, but now you're asking a rookie who's just, like, is he ready to have the predominant minutes behind Sabonis and or Murray? Or I want to see Maxime and Sabonis play together. I think that's going to be fun. But Eubanks has been around. Jones is still relatively raw, and then Saric, I just don't know how much tread is left. I feel like that's an area with one roster spot left that needs to be addressed. I know there's still Trey Lyles that's out there as a free agent. I don't know if there's going to be intrigue there. And then the Kuminga spot is still not done. I don't know how realistic it is. I am one that would still be intrigued by Jonathan Kuminga. I think my concerns are why the Warriors aren't in love with him, because everything that he kind of represents in a way of someone that's young, super talented, or potentially super talented, has the chance to check a box where you go, man, this guy's a stud. But they don't seem to be falling over themselves to sign him, which gives me pause.
Yeah, I
The
think
one that knows him the most,
Yeah, I think the reason why I'm hesitant on the Kuminga thing is how the talks have gone so far.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't seem like they're in a good spot. Like
The Warriors or Kuminga?
I think both.
Yeah.
I think that they need to talk to each other before they do anything. It seems like they are both just so far off on different pages that they both have a role to play because he's a restricted free agent.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure they're both kind of happy. And as a third party, you have to come in and try and like be nice to both of them when they both want different things. I don't even know. I feel like he'll end up still being a Warrior.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah. I mean, the restricted free agency market is just getting killed this summer, and the people aren't wanting to go in the second apron like the Kings, who, if they are still somewhat intrigued, I would offer a low ball because, look, you're trying to get him at what you think is a value.
And they're not playing him.
Right. And then when they do, I think he performs, but why aren't they playing him is what I just have never understood, or consistently. And then is there bigger issues? Is he think he's better than he is? Is that also part of the problem? Like, if you're bringing him in here, are you ready to say, go ahead and be kind of our next future piece, which I think he believes he can be that. Because look, when he played for the Warriors in the playoffs, like, he got 30 in that game against the T-Wolves, and there's been games where he's been great. He probably thinks he should be a central figure on a team.
I think that that's probably what's going on. I think he's been pretty public about not being happy in the role that he was currently in, is just being like I'll run at the rim as soon as we're never going to call a play for you. Run at the rim when you can. You're super athletic, like make your own shots that way instead of being a central focal piece of the offense, which he wants to be. I think it's similar to like an OG Anunoby in that way. I think that OG Anunoby went to New York and he was like, I want to be a part of this offense. And he thrived.
Yeah.
I think he played incredibly well. He played better than Bridges last season. And so I think it could go one of two ways, because obviously there's a lot of mouths to feed in New York, but OG still fit in. So like, how big is that ego is something definitely to look at. But I think that it's definitely true that he does not want to be in the role that he's in with the Warriors. And I think that plays into a huge part of why he's not playing.
Yeah. And I wonder, in their experience, this is pretty recent to them, if there's some traits to Jordan Poole. Like, Poole was doing some good things for the Warriors. They already paid him, though, and then they shipped him off to the Wizards. And I thought, there he's going to be a chance to be the big fish, and he's going to score a bunch of points. They just were a bad team, and he's a guy that guy that can score on a bad team.
I don't think Jordan Poole cares that much about
that. Might be it too. And then he's also hit the payday. And I'm not saying he doesn't. Some guys change too when they get that big contract, and they're already in the league, and there's guarantees, and
already a champion.
And a champion, and he still can work, but is he working the hardest and the smartest and all that kind of stuff? So I think Kuminga's situation is still out there. I don't know how much on the pulse for the Kings there, but I look at that forward 4-5 position and I still feel like that's incomplete. And that's an area that probably needs to be addressed. But can that be addressed by moving some of that backcourt in a deal? How easy is it to make a deal? By all accounts, every week when we talk to Sam Amick, and by the way, we should let everybody know on that, Sam is going to be on vacation for the next couple of weeks, so we will miss him for I guess he gets some time off. But he had said that the Kings and their market, and really a lot of trade markets out there, it's a little bit dicey this offseason based on where not a lot of people have money. People are trying to stay out of that second apron for sure, and even the first apron if they can. And so it's really become a puzzle for these teams on these contracts to fit and make their team better, rewarding people they need to reward, and then trying to add people. It's the puzzle pieces trying to get everybody in. This is difficult.
Yeah, the only team with money that I can tell is just Brooklyn. I think that Brooklyn's the only team with real flexibility right now. And they also have a restricted free agent in Cam Thomas.
Yeah.
So they're the only team that is like happy with what's going on right now. I think no other team can really do anything. We have people going for second round picks. Like trades are really low right now. Like sign and trades, like the Cam Whitmore one.
Right. Well, even the trade last week with the Jazz, like
it's John Collins.
All right, you're moving Collins, okay, but like you got Kevin Love, who's probably done. Kyle Anderson's fine, but like Kyle Anderson to me is a rotation player on a good team. When he's going to the Jazz that are like they're going to ask more of him, and then they were happy they got a second round pick out of all that. Like that to me was not really that much of a reward for John Collins.
But that's why it makes sense that the Kings lowballed the Warriors.
Yeah,
like you see what's going on, and you're like, well, I don't think you're going to get anything better than this for a guy that you did not play. No matter how good he is on the floor, like you clearly do not value him. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. So
yeah.
I think that the Warriors and Kuminga need to figure some stuff out on their own. And then eventually they can figure out how to move him, because I don't think that that's a good relationship at all.
Yeah, and so now as we see this, we still see the glut of backcourt players for the Kings that can play on a lot of teams. Front court seems a little light. The Kings, I'm sure, would like to address the front court. If the trade isn't there that makes them better, I think the trading, free agency isn't done and trading season isn't done. It's just really cooled off. I just don't know that I'm preparing myself for this to be the roster to start the season.
Yeah,
or close to it.
I would assume so. I think that there will be a lot more trades mid-season once people really evaluate their team. I think there's a lot of teams that have a lot of question marks around them. I think that the Heat and whatever's going on with Damian Lillard and the Clippers and the Warriors, all these people, like, they don't know what's really going on. I think the CBA is like finally taken effect, and I think that they all just need to play a few games and figure it out. It'll be a weird season, and I think that the Kings are in the same boat. I think that they need to see what other teams figure out about their players so that they can pick up some more people, because right now I think that it's safe to call Saric and Eubanks placeholders for that position, just in case something happens to the players who will be playing.
Yeah, because that's exactly what they feel like. I don't feel like they're certainly not long-term. They don't have long-term deals, but it's also they have contracts that are meaty enough where you go, oh, we need an extra $5 million. Boop, pop that player in, and there goes, to complete a trade. But also, the other part of this that, we're going to learn as the season goes along is Scott Perry's influence. And not what I mean about like the roster that he's building, but how he feels about the guys that he picked. So he did draft Nate Clifford. He did draft Maxime Reynaud. Is there a little bit more pressure from the front office and management to Doug to say, no, let's get our young guys in, or no, we got time on these guys? I'm not a big believer in showcasing, like, let me pick a player. Malik Monk, let's just say. I'm just picking a player like, hey, play him more so the league knows who Malik Monk is. Like, I think anybody that's been in the league for like 2 years or more, when people are like, oh, they're playing him to showcase him, I just have never been a believer in that. That other team knows the player.
Yeah,
people know the league.
I think there's moments where it's valuable. I think in like a Kuminga situation, like they should play him a little bit so his value goes up.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think everyone knows who Malik Monk is. I think everyone knows who Domantas Sabonis is. You don't need to really bump that up much more. If
Yeah.
you want to have value for them, they have their value.
Yeah. I mean, like even Kuminga, like to me, I feel like we have an idea of what he can become. I think that, to me, more of the mystery is why did the Warriors not play him? Like this is a champion. I have a lot of respect for that organization. They were trying to win a championship last year. And at times they felt they were better off not playing a guy who I look at their roster and he's one of their more talented players.
I think that they're just really stubborn. I think that they have a way that they want to play, and I think that the Steph Curry offense is what they've lived and died by, and I think that they're okay with that.
Yeah.
And Kuminga doesn't want to do that. I think they're both stubborn, not just the Warriors.
Right.
I think Kuminga is also like, I don't want to.
Right.
And then that probably doesn't rub
Yeah.
like Steve Kerr the right way. Like that.
Sure.
That's one of the best coaches of all time, like most decorated at least.
Yeah. And that's also
he's saying, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, and Kerr's got the leeway to be able to say, like, even if front office isn't like play him, you know, like he could probably win that fight a little bit more than, like, let's say Doug Christie or other coaches who haven't had a title or anything like that.
And I'm sure the front office would love if they played Kuminga more, just so that they could show off a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting as we try to make sense of what this roster is as of now. Again, Schroeder, Levine, I would say Murray, DeRozan, Sabonis start in whatever order and positions they play. Then you're going to look at Monk and Carter and Ellis somewhere in the backcourt. Clifford's got to fit in somewhere. I know they're high on Maxime Reynaud. I like the idea of the placeholders of Saric and Eubanks, and then Isaac Jones is a potential project, but still another spot there to be filled. And, you know, how are they going to shake out those guard minutes? I think that's the one. I've heard the Kings might still be interested in another point guard. I still think they need more 3, 4, 5 help is where I'd be looking if I were the Kings. And there's not a lot laying out there. It's not like, hey, there's 5 free agents they could go attack. But, ultimately end here. They're working at this in the Summer League. I like what we've seen with Clifford and Maxime Reynaud. And hopefully those guys kind of fit into the mix when the season comes around. All right, still to come on the show. Alan Stiles will join us from Las Vegas. We'll have celebrity birthdays coming up and crosstalk with him. But when we come back, what is going on tonight in the world of sports? Well, what's on deck brought to you by Trex Decking and Railing. We've got that for you and more straight ahead here on Sactown Sports.